if you decide to brew a coffee that is very fruity, and even if it's high in caffeine, if it's very fruity, very flowery, maybe sweet, doesn't taste sweet, but us palate guys will say it smells sweet, even though you can't smell sweet, that people associate it with weak coffee.
They do.
Because it doesn't taste that, they don't have those burnt flavors.
It doesn't make their face like pucker in this like kind of like.
It doesn't taste like a diner.
Yeah.
And
It can even be stronger.
Right. It probably is stronger.
Probably
it's
is
brewed
stronger.
a little slower. It's stronger. So you're almost making the coffee worse just so you can get more acceptability in your average customer.
Welcome to episode 34 of the Sultan of Slow Drip. I'm your host, the Sultan of Slow Drip, here at the beautiful Cookies and Carnitas with my buddy Brad.
Welcome, Justin.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me here.
Man, I'm excited.
Doing the episode.
This is fun.
Yeah. So the motif of this show, the whole podcast, is about palate training.
Awesome.
We talk about other things too, but the main focus is palate training.
We love it.
You are a expert at so many different things.
Okay.
Why don't you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself? You're a chef, restaurant owner. Let them all know, for those who don't, what it is that you do and what you're passionate about in food.
Okay. I own a small cafe restaurant in Chicago's North Side. I'm 47. I spent my entire life in the restaurant business, in the food business. I live my life through my palate. I was the restaurant chef at the Drake Hotel. I was the chef de cuisine at the Sofitel Hotel, among a dozen other places where I spent my days and hours in the kitchen tasting, and considering the smell and texture and aroma and the flavor and all things that you and I would think of as your palate.
And so how long ago did you start Cookies and Carnitas, and what made you decide to start this place?
I started Cookies and Carnitas in 2011 from duress.
Okay.
From having good career jobs and being fired, or having the program close or the hotel close down.
Gotcha.
And just the stress of trying to exist as an adult and as a chef at the same time led to this project here.
Yeah, it's a very bipolar kind of existence.
It is, yeah.
And it sounds to me like you wanted to take control of your own trajectory.
Well, it was out of loss of control. You're right. I would say trying to have some sort of control. Yeah.
Okay. And then, I've been in the food industry my whole life. Never a chef, but always like more so on the beverage side of things.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, like the thing that really got me passionate is having like a really good espresso for the first time.
Okay, yeah.
Right, like a stellar espresso.
I absolutely remember my first real coffee experience was a real eye-opener, yeah.
Yeah. Did you have an experience like that got you into cuisine, or was it just something that just kind of came like over time?
I would say people always ask me this. There was moments when I was in junior high school where friends had come to my parents' house, and I had made them quesadillas, let's say.
Okay.
Like flour tortilla, butter in a pan, a little bit of chicken from the fridge, some cheese out of a bag, and them being very impressed that I could boil a box of spaghetti and heat up spaghetti sauce.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very mundane. In my family, all my brothers and everybody in my family, my father, my grandfather included, could easily boil a box of spaghetti, could easily make garlic bread, could easily make a pancake. And I didn't realize until I was about 7th, 8th grade that was uncommon.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy, because I grew up cooking too, like just naturally wanting to cook. And I didn't know that was not the norm at all. Like,
no, my family almost insisted on it.
Yeah.
I was a latchkey kid.
Same here.
Yeah, and when you got the phone call, it was like the $20 bill is in the roll top desk.
Yeah.
Get 2 boxes of spaghetti, get 2 cans of peeled tomatoes, and make sure that there's a salad, and I'll be home at 6:30.
And cook for everybody.
Yeah. And it didn't matter who picked up the phone. That person was just as capable as the other person, whether it was my older brother or myself. Whoever picked up the phone, that person was responsible for making a simple dinner for the family.
That's awesome. Did you ever like feel competitive with anybody to be like better, like I'm the best cook or something like what?
Well,
Because there's cooking and then there's being a chef. You know, like, and they're just different animals altogether. Like a person who cooks, you know, might enjoy just the stress relief or just like putting it together. It's like, for example, a cook and a baker are not the same animal.
No,
at all.
No,
right? Like a person.
there's a wild similarity. They're professional kitchen people. The way that they think about, we call it mise en place.
Right, exactly. Things in their place.
Things in their place, and there's a lot to do. There's a lot of similarities. They work in a kitchen. So a baker is a chef, is a cook, is so on. But, you know, they're different expertise. You know, somebody who's really great with chocolate or decorating cakes or baking, you know, might not necessarily have the same expertise as somebody who's incredible with verbing menus and putting all kinds of different cultures down on a tasty menu that's paired with wines and spirits and so on. Yeah.
And speaking of which, you got a bunch of spirits here for us to taste. So I'm gonna take a stab in the dark and say you're pretty passionate about spirits.
I am passionate about the palate.
Okay, I love to hear that. So
I am passionate about. I want to define palate.
You want to what now?
Define what it means.
You want to define palate. We can do that on the show. Yeah.
I want to define it with you.
You want to do that right now? You want to wait till we kind of get our palate
I want to
going?
define palate.
Okay, let's do it. For me, palate is, if I could put it in a single phrase, it's sensory recall.
Okay, sensory recall. That's important.
Yeah,
okay.
It's the ability to index every experience that you've had with your tongue and your nose.
Oh, that is very fantastic.
And and just like the textures, the mouthfeel, the taste, the intensity, like all these different things, the ability to Rolodex those accurately and build them out over time so that when you taste something, you can immediately go back to that time where you had something that reminds you of that. So for me,
Mama's spaghetti is a special thing. Not just because of the taste necessarily.
Yeah, and then also the ability to extrapolate and say, okay, not only does this taste like something I've tasted, this tastes like something that I've never tasted, but I just know that thing tastes that way because my ability to perceive flavors is just that good. So you might say this tastes like a tennis ball. You've never tasted a tennis ball, but
you smelled a tennis ball.
Exactly.
You had a tennis lesson.
Yes.
You remember the little kid, the sound of the three balls in the container, and you open it up and you smell that
smell
rubber.
it, yeah.
Right. And
so if someone put a blindfold you, put a tennis ball in your mouth, you'd be like, yeah, that's a tennis ball.
Well, I find that awesome, and it's special for me to speak with you about palate because I feel that my training and my expertise is I can't openly speak about it to everybody because they don't get it. They don't care about it as much as I do. They haven't thought about it. So I want to put some facts on top of it. First off, that was amazing.
Okay, yeah, I want to hear your...
So I want to put some facts
okay, great.
On what you just said. So we only taste 5 things.
Okay.
Right? We taste sweet, we taste salty, we taste bitter, and we taste umami.
Where's the 5th?
Sweet, salty, bitter, sour.
Sour. There we go. Okay.
And also, we don't have all those same receptors all over our tongue.
Right.
Sweet is everywhere. Salty's everywhere. Bitter's on the sides of our tongue. It's in different places, right? So I want people to understand that we don't taste much.
Okay.
And why our palate, by definition, is the soft tissue within our mouth, right? And that being said, is the majority of taste is aroma.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So, and also is what do you call that? There's certain tastes that we have for certain reasons.
Okay.
So sweet is for life-saving. Our palate,
like for calories.
Right.
Yeah.
Our palate is to keep us safe.
Yeah.
So we remember things in our brain through our palate, so we don't crush our teeth. Same with a dog.
Yeah.
They could smell. They know that if it smells like chicken, it might have bones type thing, right? So our palate is very soft. So if you smell that kind of peanut buttery smell in an item, you eat it differently. If you've ever chipped your tooth on an olive And
Yeah, you bite just right into
you
it, yeah.
smell olive. You eat a salad with olives differently. A lot of people don't know that, but they do.
Yeah, my daughter's 2.
Yeah.
And she eats olives differently, cherries differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You only need that experience.
That one time, yeah.
So we only taste 5 things, but by the time we're 5 years old, we could recognize 80,000 smells. Right?
Yeah.
So when you talk about bringing people back,
Mm-hmm.
it is a texture thing. A Pringle only tastes like a Pringle. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense?
That makes sense, yeah.
Not the sweetness or the saltiness of it, but that texture.
The texture, the
right.
waviness of it, the whole, yeah.
So if you're being some unique chef and you want to call it Pringles with caviar, your whole purpose in the recipe would to have that texture of Pringles.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yep.
And that's what's really exciting. And like when we taste coffee, for example, you're a coffee guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of texture involved with coffee.
Yeah.
And a huge amount of tannins and astringency
Right.
that all come together in your brain at the same time that make the flavor.
Yeah.
And people who don't train their palates don't know this.
They don't.
So when they get that little tannic pull on their tongue, they don't associate that. They associate that with flavor, but they don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, and coffee is one of the harder ones too because there's so many tannins. It's so bitter. It's so easy to screw it up. People think coffee is a casual drink, but it's really not. It requires a lot of expertise to not ruin it.
Yeah.
And make it like unpalatable.
Well, not to go off on a tangent, I believe that there's a lot of what's that called when you do something over and over again?
Like that repetition or
Not
like the
repetition.
muscle memory or
No.
intuition.
No, it's like when you pray all the time. It's a
Like ritual or
ritual.
something? Yeah.
So coffee's ritual.
Yeah.
People drink coffee every morning.
Uh-huh.
And if you're going to do something every single morning, wouldn't you want that to be the best experience?
You got to.
Why would you want to minimalize, or why would you want to hurry? Why would you want to make that the most convenient thing? Why would you want to make that in a pot or make that, stirred in hot water? If you're going to ritualize coffee, which people look forward to in the morning, wouldn't you want to learn about coffee?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to learn about what's going on, how to have the most delicious, most excellent ritual
Yes.
for coffee?
And I'm surprised by 2 things with that, actually. I'm surprised by the amount of people who actually are very interested in coffee. Like, they do want to learn all the rituals of it. And also, I'm surprised by the sheer amount of people who still don't know. Like,
Yes.
it's interesting because it's like there are all these people who are super excited about coffee.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's like, I love coffee. I want to learn more. And then the amount of just people who don't know anything about coffee whatsoever is mind-blowing. I thought everybody would have learned all there is to know about coffee by now.
Well, it bothers me when you go to like Neiman Marcus or something and you're looking at all the fancy stuff and they have the kiosk for the pot or what have you, and they're talking about how smooth or how creamy and using all these verbiages that literally have nothing to do with how we actually taste things and so on.
Yeah.
And it's really disgruntling as somebody who cares. And I think that's also one of the reasons why I brought this plethora of bourbons and tequilas here, is to kind of reinforce the fact that people take the information of something that's truly awesome and then it's marketed to be debaucherized.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
You have this beautiful smoky vanilla awesome bourbon and it has a history, and then people just expound on that history and serve you garbage.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah. I mean, it's like almost you can have a great bourbon that ultimately has people on the other end just tasting barrel. You know?
Okay.
It's like, what's that one lowest common denominator that we can distill into something repeatable and scalable, profitable, and then we'll just sell that to people? So now everybody wants to just taste barrel.
That's
right?
it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And
With
with this,
funny. Tell me if you haven't noticed this. You being in the coffee industry, and I have a small coffee shop, is if you decide to brew a coffee that is very fruity, and even if it's high in caffeine, if it's very fruity, very flowery, maybe sweet, doesn't taste sweet, but us palate guys will say it smells sweet, even though you can't smell sweet. That people associate it with weak coffee.
they do.
Because it doesn't taste that. They don't have those burnt
It
flavors.
doesn't make their face like pucker in this like
It,
kind of
it
like.
doesn't taste like a diner.
Yeah.
And you're almost
It can even be stronger.
right. It can almost. It probably is stronger.
Probably
It's
is
brewed
stronger.
a little slower. It's
Yeah.
stronger. So you're almost making the coffee worse just so you can get more acceptability in your average customer.
Well, I went the other way. I just said, hey, I have this coffee that is like for everybody who wants to just taste coffee, like shaved dark chocolate kind of notes,
Yeah.
And it's the most popular. And then I
Right.
have the coffee that's like, hey, this is the light roast. It's
This
different.
is amazing stuff.
And the people who like that, like myself,
Yeah.
they appreciate it and they gravitate towards it. And it's like no compromise. I'm not going to try to middle ground this and
Yeah.
make this taste like
I love
something
that.
a little more common.
That's my personality is to do what I know is best. I'm the expert.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I can put these beautiful menus with interesting ingredients and interesting proteins and turn people onto new things. But I know that people are afraid to spend their hard-earned dollars. They're going to get the shrimp. They're going
Right.
to get the sirloin.
Right.
And it's like in the industry of Palate, in the Palate industry, we're using our expertise to make money and to get people compelled and to trust us spending them. Is that there's a balancing act of giving customers what they feel comfortable with and what they know, or doing what you know as best.
I mean, the best customer is the one who obviously just lets you sit in the driver's seat.
Well, yeah, and we have those,
Right.
And sometimes though they're so exciting, we almost live for that.
Yeah. But then occasionally you have the person who just like almost couldn't be bothered.
Well, you get the people, they tell you how much they love food and how much they love dining and how they've tasted this and that and this and that. And then they go to the restaurant and the restaurant has 9,000 things on the wine list. And they want to spend $300, but they're afraid to get ripped off. So they buy the Opus one anyways.
Gotcha, yeah.
The people who, I love smoky bourbons. I love this. I love that. And then they wind up getting the Blatons anyways.
Right, yeah.
Because they don't want to waste the
They
40.
already know what it tastes like too, which is crazy.
Yeah, and which is different than you and I. I know
Yeah.
that if you and I went somewhere, we just ordered the most esoteric,
Just
wacky shit on the
something
menu.
I will kick myself if I don't get it because I can't
Right,
get it anywhere
yeah.
else, or
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have simple rules. It's like I'm not ordering chicken and I'm not ordering red meat, and I'm just not doing it.
Right.
Because why?
That makes a lot of sense.
Why did I drive, get valet, spend all this money to go eat a strip steak at a restaurant?
Yeah, exactly.
It
You can
makes
make it yourself, and it's like whatever.
Exactly.
You want to see someone else's interpretation, someone else's vision.
Yeah.
And you want to see their discernment as
Yeah.
well. Speaking of discernment, actually, I'm curious to see like why you put this here the way you did.
Okay.
I know our viewers can't see it, so maybe we can start grabbing some things. And as well as speaking of discernment,
why don't we start with this?
Okay.
Because this will be for your and I personal enjoyment. And I think as soon as we pour it in a glass and drink it, you'll instantly see where I'm thinking.
Okay.
Because you do have quite the palate.
Awesome, thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
so I think that's pretty simple.
Cool.
And I have some for
Victor as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what it is brandy.
Okay.
And why do you think I would pick a brandy for you and I?
Brandy is very aromatic.
I picked brandy because it's not popular at all. I picked brandy.
It's popular in my circles.
Oh, well, yeah.
We're drinking Armagnac like we did all episode on Armagnac.
Okay, well, I forget who I'm talking to.
No, I feel you.
It's just not popular with
That's a shame.
Our general Midwestern, middle to high-end dining public.
Okay.
It's just not popular. You could have the best stuff
Yeah.
at the cheapest price, and people still want their Wellers and their Blatton, and they want these things.
That's crazy.
That they think that they have their mind around.
Because, I'll tell you what. I'll take a brandy or a mezcal over a whiskey any day of the week.
At 100.
Any day.
Well, of course, because if you want to drink a really good whiskey, you're going to have to donate your kidney.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, for talking about palate, if you're going to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on it, there's no reference point unless you're drinking several together.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
So anybody who's at the fancy, at let's give a name, at Mastro Steakhouse and orders, a $400 shot of Pappy Van Winkle, there's no way that their palate is picking up on it unless there's references.
That's true.
So they're like, they get it in the one glass. No, that's not how we work. We appreciate older things, old wines, old vinegars, aged whiskeys. We taste them all together.
it's almost as if like if you were to get that Pappy or something like just a little more elevated, it should almost come with a sidecar for comparison.
110%.
Just for comparison alone.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yeah.
So I picked a brandy. This is a Spanish brandy. There's nothing less than 25 years old in here.
That's awesome.
Brandy's made like whiskey.
Yeah.
Brandy tastes
Just
like
made from
whiskey.
grapes. Yeah.
And that being said, this bottle is $185. And for $185, if you were to get an American whiskey, you still probably wouldn't get much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not because it's worth that much, just because it's supply and demand.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in the brandy in the mezcal market, $100+ gets you something really
Exactly.
excellent.
So I think if we sip on this, us being palate guys, it's like, I think it's instantaneous on that you're drinking something awesome, basically. Cheers, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Should we note on how to taste things properly?
Yeah, I mean, I go on that all the time.
Okay,
if you want
go on
to, give your like condensed version, like your quick, like what do you do?
I'll give a quick one.
Whoa,
legs are texture. The legs are how the water flows. Usually, how much alcohol. Alcohol is sugar. Anybody who wants to say it's not, alcohol is sugar.
Okay.
Your body burns it directly as sugar. Alcohol also evaporates at room temperature. It also evaporates quicker than water does. So sometimes if you blow, you could blow that bit of alcohol off the top, and then you'll be able to smell, instead of the alcohol kind of burning your nostrils and burning, when you smell, you use your whole palate. Mm-hmm. Have the gases go into your cheeks, have it go underneath your gums, have it go into your nose and out your mouth, and use the whole thing.
It's got to be your mouthwash.
It's got to be your mouthwash.
Yeah. And do you do like the whole like retro nasal inhalation? And all that
It's
stuff?
funny as I was fortunate enough to work with a master sommelier.
Yeah.
And his thing was, if your nose touches the wine, if your nose touches the spirit, that is so couth. It is absolutely okay. He's like, you're trying to get in. Here's an important one that I know you know, but not everybody knows is the first part of your palate, the most powerful, the strongest, is only really good for about a second and a half. Mm-hmm. So people who are there and they're like, you can't really smell that well. A smell is momentarily. Mm-hmm. You blow off the alcohol and you get about a second and a half of real information there. And a lot of people don't know that. So when
I didn't know.
Yeah, when you're smelling coffee beans and you shake that bag and you stick your head in there, that first hit is about as much information as you can get.
I just actually blew. I did the blow thing. I smelled it first.
Yeah.
And then I blew and smelled it, and like the heat just disappeared.
The
like
heat,
the alcohol.
and you want that heat to disappear, because that's a generic smell.
Yeah, it just covers everything up. It's obscurity. It's not really any clarity whatsoever.
Yeah.
Holy smokes! That's the first time I ever got that tip.
And only give yourself that 2 seconds at a time, and then give your palate a moment
Holy
to like
smokes.
regain.
We just got another tool in our bag of tricks. Like we have all these little things we do: the retro nasal, the swishing.
Swishing so important.
Blowing the alcohol. Holy smokes!
Yeah. Texture, man. What are we really tasting?
And then, I can tell you, the number one thing that's standing out to me is this has like, it's almost like a even more fortified Madeira. It's very Madeira-y.
It is, yeah.
Lower kind of acetic, vinegary.
Low acidity. It almost has a malolactic, which is that milky, creamy, not a smell or a taste, but a feel.
A feel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the size and structure of the acidity itself.
Yeah. I want to, let me think if I could verb this. Let's talk about what is delicious, okay?
Or you mean like what tastes good or like umami?
Yeah, I want to talk about what tastes good.
Okay.
Okay. So there's always the fight and flight tastes good. Sugar.
Yeah.
Jolly Ranchers taste good.
They taste good.
A cheeseburger dipped in cheese and rolled in bacon fat tastes good. Mm-hmm. But now let's go beyond that. Mm-hmm. And what really, so when you're watching social media, whatever, and they have the bacon cheeseburger and they pour the cheap melted cheese over the top.
Yeah.
Of course that tastes good.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's survival for us. Our palates tell us we need calories. That cookie tastes good. Well, especially with that. That's got to be crazy. I didn't even think of that. That's
You want
funny.
some?
No, sir. That's pretty hilarious. That would almost be a classic pairing. The jam and peanut butter with this is probably got pretty awesome.
I mean, first of all, I'm at Cookies and Carnitas, so I have to get a cookie.
Yeah, man.
Your cookies are absolutely fire.
Appreciate that.
My daughter, when we go past, she's always pointing. She's like, cookie.
That's funny.
Like, when she's really good, I get her a cookie from here.
My friend's daughter, when they walk by, she goes, Uncle Brad's cookies. She doesn't say Cookies and Carnitas. She goes, Uncle Brad's cookies. Okay, so deliciousness. And this is important to me because I'm curious if you feel the same way. And this is only my opinion or a theory. And I talk about it with my chef and with my team all the time. So juicy cheeseburgers and refined starches and all these things that kind of melt on our palate real quick and have high in calories and high impact, of course, are delicious.
Right.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Yep.
I think things that go through a fermentation, things that are digested by organisms first, are what we truly think of as delicious. And I'll give you a handful of examples, and you could add to it if you want. Vinegar, cheese, beer, coffee.
Natto,
Japanese natto, goes through a simple fermentation before it's really stringing it. And soy sauce.
Blue cheese.
Any cheese, all
Any
cheese,
really,
right?
yeah.
Sour cream, creme fraiche. Sourdough bread.
It's
all
like
bread.
a different level of bread even.
So there's a difference between Wonder Bread and sourdough bread. All things alcohol are fermented. So I think once you get past the survivalist deliciousness, which is that salt might also be a survival delicious thing.
100%.
Salt isn't
It's essential.
readily available in all parts of the world.
Right.
And you could die without sodium.
100%.
You could die without vitamin C.
100%.
And I believe that those very tart things are innate to
You get a flavor for it because it says, hey, if you eat this, you'll live.
You got it.
Yep.
So it's like when you're out there and then you finally get the root of the certain onion that actually has sodium in it, your body's like, I need that.
Let me take this one step further. The fermentation thing, it's the stuff that we're understanding about fermentations and the gut biome.
The gut biome, okay.
Right? Your gut biome may very well have an influence on your personality.
Well, they already know, I know this is going to be a total tangent, but they know for sure, they used to think this, but now they know for sure, probably in the past 10 years, is that you have brain cells in your stomach.
Like nervous,
the same nerve receptor, the way it's shaped, some like three-pronged nerve receptor that's considered a brain cell. They know
that same neuron.
They know for a fact you have those in your stomach.
That makes total sense, honestly.
And they didn't always know that.
Yeah.
They used to.
Is that where your gut feeling comes from? Do you think? I'm serious. Like,
well, we all have like a third eye, and our brain takes two pieces of information and makes three parts to it. So if somebody's lying or cheating or stealing, you do feel it.
You feel it
as well
you
as
feel it. You can feel when you're being looked at.
You could feel when somebody has bad intent.
Right.
And
So the body is such a complicated thing. It's probably the most complicated thing that we know. Like, your brain is more complicated than anything we know.
Well, yeah.
Anything about.
And it's more complicated than we know yet.
Exactly.
You know what bothers me about that?
What's that?
You ever notice how they always say that every year that animals are getting smarter? Like when we were kids in 1982, they're like, man, we didn't even know dogs were this smart.
Yeah.
Now it's 2022, and they're like, man, we didn't even know dogs were this smart.
Yeah.
And I was like, isn't this shit pretty obvious already?
It's pretty obvious.
Chimpanzees are pretty smart.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty smart.
Every year, a chimpanzee gets smarter. You ever notice that people don't get smarter, though? You ever notice that? They're like, wow, the gorillas in the Serengeti, they're just so much smarter than we ever thought. And then just 5 years later, they're smarter than we ever thought.
Yeah,
Snakes have more intuitivity than we ever thought. But they're not like, people. They're like, people are getting dumber, but everybody around us, everything.
I'm going to go a little even deeper into the... Oh, man, I just got another flavor, too. I'm sorry, but...
Holy shit. That's actually kind of bonkers that you're eating that. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, no, I saw what you had, and I was like, I want that cookie as well.
That's
because I thought that would be a good play. I'm getting this, like... It's almost like a Sultan.
Okay, sauternes.
Yeah,
Like
with
that kind of
play.
sweet
Yes.
tobacco,
Like
almost barbecue.
very dark. I'm getting like a very dark apricot from it. Like
So when you let's
I'm gonna finish my thought though.
Okay, please.
Because the people getting smarter or not getting smarter thing, I think literally we're crushing off of technology too much, and that's what it is.
Oh yeah, it's making us dumber almost.
It's like
Right,
it's just putting us in a state where we're just not really being our full selves.
Oh,
we just
no,
just crush off technology.
Yeah,
'Cause it's
we
like,
are getting sucked into the matrix.
I saw an article was like, if you had to think about how much internal knowledge a 17th century peasant had to have in order to survive, he had to know how to forage, he had to know how to plant these crops, had to know how to rotate them, had to know how to keep away predators,
Absolutely.
had to know how to raise all these different animals, had to know like different social stuff. Like he actually had to know people. Imagine
Right.
really having to know people. Like your mayor is like a gangster, like El Chapo.
Okay.
Because like these old, princes and lords,
Sure.
they were essentially thugs that had used the legal structure to attain power and they keep order and
Okay.
all that stuff.
As-
but he had to
as they still do.
He had to know things about this guy.
Sure, he had to remember things. about this.
Remember
Yeah,
things, right?
yeah.
And it's like all these, and we look at these people like they're dumb hicks, but we just outsource like our brain power to the
Well,
the technological
there's
womb.
actual proof to that. If you go to third world countries and the social and intellectual development of infants
yeah.
is almost faster until they get to a certain age where where the developed nations kids go away to schools and they get educated, and then their kind of education gets stifled from there. But in their beginning parts of life, if they don't know to run in the street, they'll get hit by a car
Right.
or they get attacked. But they have to know how to take care of things and do things at a very young age, or,
Yeah.
or else they die or get sick.
Yeah.
And we kind of overprotect right from the beginning. So there's literal evidence of what you're saying to be true.
Yes.
This so what you're saying is not a hypothesis; it's a fact. Yeah. What was that? What kind of weird tangent was I gonna go on?
I was gonna talk about. I'm getting like the more I'm just kind of getting in here, and
I want to talk about like the masters of the palate.
Okay.
So there's people out there that taste so much stuff and have such a deep understanding of our memories that when they could take food, there's 3 types of wine pairings or liquor pairings, right? There's the bridge.
Yeah.
Bridge is like beef with butter.
Okay.
So you have beef, which is from a cow, and you put more butter on it, and now it's triple beef because it's beef and butter and cheese, blah, blah. It's a cheeseburger, right?
Okay.
And then there's the contrast. There's the bridge, which is beef and butter. And then the contrast would be like your lobster with lemon.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
you have your rich, buttery lobster, and then you contrast it with a lemon. Cuts right down
Cuts
the middle,
through it,
right?
yeah.
And then you have the third, is where you make a whole new flavor,
Okay.
where you have your strawberry tart, and you pair it perfectly with the sauternes. And when you cleanse your palate of the strawberry tart with the sauternes, boom,
It
you
changes to
taste
something
taste grass, you taste rosemary, you taste something that doesn't even exist in what you're having.
Yeah.
And when you are spending huge money
Sorry.
on somebody's expertise, when you're buying Kyoto Black, or you're at Cookies and Carnitas, and you're sitting at the bar with Matt, and you want something special, somebody should be able to provide that for you. If you're going to spend $1,000 on dinner, that's what it should be. You should have the bridge, which is your stout beer with French fries and salt and whatever, these rich things. And then they should be able to, and the contrast, of course, the white wine with your raw fish type thing. And then, you take your really high in protein tuna, and you have your sake, your contrast to the tuna.
Yeah.
Then real experts. I'm not saying me or you. I'm saying
Like
Robuchon.
Robuchon,
Yeah, you go to if they can't provide that type of experience, they're not as good as they say they are. But I have been there. I'm assuming you have been too, where you're at a meal and the guy brings some weird off-year Burgundy, and he's like, okay. He's like, you're going to drink these together, and you're going to have a whole third experience, and you do.
Yeah.
And I would say that leads up to those first experiences. Like the first time somebody I remember drinking coffee with you years and years ago. And you set the grinder and you set everything up and you brewed it just at different times.
Yeah.
And you were bringing out different levels of acid and bitter in the same coffee.
Yeah, everything else was
and
the same.
And you were freaking blowing my mind with it. And I would have to say, like, to have those experiences might be what it takes to make your to make things important to you.
Yeah.
Or to make them seem real.
Yeah.
You could drink bourbon your whole life and just think of it as bourbon. You mix Coke with it. You put Diet Coke with it. Root beer. You put, who cares? You put bitters in it. You make an old fashioned. You put simple syrup in it. But not until the one guy kind of makes that contrasting experience.
Yeah.
You know, pours it in a different glass, puts it side by side with something that's not that smoky, where it's like, okay, now it's worth $200.
You know that show How It's Made, where they show like
Sure.
a factory? It's almost like you need that kind of experience, but in real life.
Yeah.
With a person who actually has expertise guiding you through it, giving you the finished product. Because it's very fascinating to see like all these machineries move, right?
Sure.
When you're a person doing something, do you have that same level of intention? Like the intention of that machinery, the way it's made?
I'm going to give you a sip of some very expensive.
Yeah, please do.
Very expensive garbage.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll talk about this as well.
I mean, I almost hate promoting them and talking about it, but extraordinarily, this is $80.
Okay.
Okay. And it is made in the classic fashion. It follows all the laws and rules.
What is it?
It's bourbon. It's Kentucky bourbon. It's spent time in wood, and it's everything. It's rare.
Yeah.
You can't go to the store and buy it. If you go online, it's 3 times the. It's everything that pisses us off about food is in this one bottle right here, and it sucks.
Oh wow. Okay. I'm definitely willing.
And it's bad.
Down to try that.
And it's all playing on marketing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're intentionally trying something that sucks. I love that.
And I feel like us as people who live by our palates, we search out those experiences where we get the contrast.
Where we're just like a little touch for Vic, probably.
Where we're eating every apple from a grower.
You don't feel like you have to finish it either.
Where we're eating every apple, where we don't want to just taste a strawberry. We want to taste the strawberry with the guy who grows early season strawberries, mid season strawberries, late season strawberries. Like
Can I see that bottle if you don't mind?
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
And just don't buy it.
Oh yeah. I mean, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Right?
Oh, okay, there you go.
I'm getting like some cola and some ginger ale on the nose.
Okay, those are good. You know what? Black pepper. It's not all bad. I mean,
Yeah, I mean-
there's definite features that are amazing. You know, it's still peppery, and you definitely get a little bit of smoke and some fun stuff.
I mean, I say this, like everything that you put in your mouth is an opportunity to train your palate.
Absolutely, yeah.
Giggity.
Yeah. Just, I know this is sad,
Sheesh.
but it's important to remember $85.
Yeah, dude.
It's important to remember $85.
$85. Wow, that's over sweet. Like that's like that fake sweet, that caramel.
It is literally hot. I don't know what else.
It's really hot.
It's so peppery.
Yeah.
That it is hot to the palate. It is hot up front.
If you told me this was like some Jack Daniels, like Private Reserve, like BS, I
You'd
would
be like,
believe that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah. Unfortunately,
it's
it is.
very like the thing is the subtleties and the sophistication becomes the point.
Right.
And it's like there's a difference between adding sugar or adding to caramels or something
Sure.
versus creating sugars and creating caramels. Like
well, yeah, two different things.
they just develop differently. The tongue perceives them differently. Like wow,
and
that's
I think this would be important
Oh
for
my
your non-nerdy people like us, is that we will literally spend whatever it takes for a minutia of difference.
yeah.
So when we're tasting coffee together, in our head, it shows up as super bright or super creamy or super chocolatey, but to somebody that's not referencing it to 16 different coffees in a day,
Yeah.
it's minutia. It's a tiny, tiny bit.
Yeah.
I see my chef right there in front of me, so this makes me think of, you could make great food and don't have to have all this fancy stuff in it.
Yeah.
But if you're making a simple spaghetti and you put some cheap oil in there and some cheap garlic in there and a spoonful of cheap butter and a cheap can of tomatoes and season it really nice and cook it with a lot of skill and passion, it's going to be kick-ass spaghetti. But if you start layering in killer butter, great sea salt, awesome spicy olive oil, handmade pasta, and then cook it with the same, you're going to have only minutia is different. The difference is going to be the minutia. But that's what.
But that's where everything
That's
is.
where you and I
Yeah.
do for a living.
I
It's
mean-
that top extra 10% of quality that we literally will get on a fucking airplane.
Yeah.
Fly for thousands of dollars just so we could taste what a certain type of clam is supposed to taste like.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people want to go to, for example, Jiro, the sushi.
Sure.
People
I
wanna
wanna go.
Right? People want to go there to taste.
Let's go, Justin.
Right? Yeah, we'll get on a plane.
I'll go.
I'll meet you in Japan, right?
You know
be
I'll
there.
go.
I know you'll go. 100%. People want to go there to taste his sushi. You know,
Right.
I want to taste his sushi rice.
Oh, right.
I wanna take his rice.
Because what's the reality of sushi?
Yeah.
It's like, you don't go to Jiro. Oh, no offense, Jiro. I love you. You're the man. But you don't go to Jiro because he crafts some sort of magical flavors with his palate. It's because he's relentless on buying quality.
He's buying quality, so that
He's
you know
buy-
that
yeah.
fish is going to be excellent.
Right.
You know it's going to be cut perfectly.
Exactly.
You know those bones are going to be removed in the way where the fish lays flat.
Yeah,
and everything.
all the knife strokes in there are gonna be perfect.
They're gonna be
The
perfect.
size, the shape for your mouth,
Perfect.
is gonna be perfect, right? Or it's gonna be the benchmark for perfect.
Yes. However, that's just like one piece of
Right,
fish.
exactly.
But that's like 100 little pieces of rice.
Exactly.
And you can fuck up just a few of those, and it ruins
Sure.
the whole experience.
Sure. So his real for people that are super nerds like us,
Yeah.
the real expertise is that rice.
The rice.
It's
And then
not-
how much
it-
vinegar?
right.
Like, is it kombu in the? You know,
Right,
like,
right, yeah,
what,
yeah,
like
yeah.
how you get the rice like that?
Exactly. It's not, or the soy sauce.
Yes.
Yeah. And the cut, the texture, right?
Yes.
So it's not necessarily how good is the tuna.
Yeah. It's really not.
It's more like we trust him that at that moment and those markets in all of the world, he is gonna buy what is the best.
Yes, the tuna is a given.
Right.
I know it's gonna be excellent. It's like, because when I go get sushi, like when I'm in Japan with my wife, when we go to great places, I'm really trying to taste like the rice if I'm having
Of course,
nigiri,
right,
like,
right,
because
yeah.
that's the differentiator.
Yeah, right.
The good fish, the good cuts, that's like the cost of entry.
That's the money.
Yeah.
That's why we're in Japan or in California or at this fancy place, is because
Right.
we're under the perception, because it might not always be reality. We're under the perception that they're going to buy the best fucking shit.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, one of the best things that I've ever tasted, like in life,
Yeah.
was onigiri, like a rice
Onigiri,
rice
okay.
ball,
Mm-hmm.
that's just grilled with butter.
Bro, I mean, come on.
Like literally, just onigiri with butter. That's it.
I don't know if you know my friend Hari Chan, one of the best sushi chefs in Chicago. He works at these crappy steakhouses, these
Yeah.
big corporate steakhouses, and serves nigiri and serves it with king crab and serves it with a side of butter. And he plays that simple understanding of food. He's playing on the minds of all these 65-year-old rich guys in
Right.
their black Mercedes Benzes
Yeah.
that want their crab legs for $125.
They want it,
Yes.
and it's like,
And he is literally using his expertise and palate to give them a flashback memory and add his own flavor to it.
yes.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, with the onigiri, like that,
Yeah.
that's the curveball. It's like, okay, crab leg and butter,
Right.
the most obvious shit in the world,
Absolutely.
right?
Right.
But when you throw the onigiri in there, now you're talking about, okay, this is something that Japanese people like. For example, you know, my wife is from the Japanese countryside, and like what they do is they'll do like a.
By the way, if you haven't noticed, he can't even finish.
I'm
the
barely
whiskey.
like touching it.
You can't even finish it. And
Sorry.
your palate is also connected very much to your emotions and your mind.
Yeah.
So you could set somebody up for flavor.
Yeah.
If me and you are in a room and we start telling anybody black cherry, and we pour them a sip of some of your amazing cold brew,
Black cherry
is going to pop up.
It's close enough to that black cherry has to pop up.
Right. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that is also something that we have to not lie to ourselves about.
Yeah. The
Right?
power of suggestion. And
The power of suggestion, the power of the group experience. I don't think it's food.
yeah.
Eat it, enjoy it,
Yeah.
get something out of it.
There is the social aspect of food. It's
There's
like,
the social aspect of food. It's important. If you are at a smokehouse and the whole place is smoky and you're eating the barbecue, how is it going to taste smokier than
Yeah.
than if you're at the mall barbecue place?
Right,
eating?
right,
So
yeah.
You know, come on.
Yeah, I mean, is it going to taste better if, like, there are people, like, riding the mechanical bull and shit?
Yes,
you know? It's like, yeah, it's going to taste better.
If there's peanut shells on the floor,
yeah,
it's
it's
fucking
gonna
better.
taste
I'm
better.
sorry.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And it's like our palates are very sensitive, and the social aspect's huge. So like,
Yes.
we all day are constantly talking about food, and it almost puts us in this like finite 0.0001% of douchebags that our whole life is directed. We're driving down the street, we smell somebody cutting their lawn, we're like, oh, that reminds me of that mezcal we had, right?
It does.
But the reality is that's not everybody.
No.
And when
Not
you're,
even close.
when you're a master chef like Hari, or you're feeding the general audience like I am, we're trying to play on their emotions.
Yeah.
We're trying to give them our agenda using what we know of their history. Does that make any sense?
It makes total sense.
So like I listened to you, right? You just gave me some information about where you come from or whatever.
Yeah.
Now when I go to feed you, I'm
You're
going
gonna
to use
evoke
that against you.
You're going to use it, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I am.
Yep.
Because I have some experience now. I know certain references might not work on you.
Yep.
So I'll try for a different reference. You have a Japanese wife. You just mentioned some shit now, and now I'm
You're like, all right, how can I
yeah.
get this person to
Yeah.
to feel something? Because
Yeah. So,
so
maybe
much,
that old gift of miso that's in a bag, just sitting there for a couple years. Maybe when we fry up a piece of fancy bread and butter, maybe I'll put a little tiny bit of that miso on there and find out what happens in your brain.
Yeah.
As opposed to the childhood memory I have of my mom making lasagna.
Yeah, I mean, what you'll probably do is you'll probably put it on the plate, eat some of it first,
Oh yeah, that might
eat some of it first, and then put it on the plate and be like, all right, now I can talk to him about this because
Okay.
it's fresh on my tongue.
Yeah, well, there's some of that too. That could happen. Yeah, I'm still a scumbag.
Thanks.
You can't even drink it, can you?
What's up?
Can't even drink it.
No. I got in there a little bit. I got a little bit more than you did.
Yeah, it's hot.
Just to really, no.
It read it. It clicks all the buttons for anybody who's into it. It's been in wood for 3 years. It follows all the laws of bourbon. It's
Yeah.
a real.
So
It's garbage.
I feel like the initial question that you opened with defining palate, just in this conversation, we've gone in such a direction where now I feel like there's a new thing that needs to be added to what is palate.
Okay.
And that is this idea of being emotionally invested.
Oh, okay.
Because here's the thing. You can just put something in your mouth and not taste it. Just the same way you can drive somewhere and not know how the hell you got there.
Well, I could give you an experience that I had with my staff. We were with an amazing videographer, Edward Bowe Photography. This guy, his quality, he could literally make an episode of A Chef's Table by himself. He's that amazing. And we went up to the burbs to a meat cutter, general, just your very standard commodity beef. Nothing fancy at all.
Yeah.
Prime beef, very buttery, delicious, what all Americans love, the shit that's bad for the environment, right?
Okay.
But we were there as their guests. And they were doing a cutting for us. And they had beef aged, different ages and different cuts. And they were grilling it. And we were through the moon. We're eating like the little end pieces of the kind of
The
blue
dry
cheesy,
age, yeah.
the stuff that most customers would throw in the
That
garbage.
shit is intense. It's
We're-
so good, though.
We're eating it, and me and my chef and me and my staff, we are high-fiving, and we are loving it. But what's the reality? The reality is that we're emotionally invested. We drove out there. We wanted them to be happy with us. We wanted us to be happy with them.
Yeah.
Now they're bringing out all these products. We know how expensive they are.
Right.
We know how rarefied the public thinks of them. But for me personally, I don't give a shit. Prime beef, some fucking dog food for me. I've been to the farm. I've been to.
You really have been like you've really gotten your hands dirty.
I've really spent my time and money to go. I've been to Japan, to taste the rice type situation. I've been to the best cities in Spain because I want to know for sure. I want to put my own reference. That being said, we're in the burbs of the Midwest, meat and potatoes town, and we're eating meat and potatoes with meat and potato guys, and we are literally like high-fiving each other as like the best shit we ever had. Because we're emotionally invested into being there.
Yeah.
We're emotionally invested into having a good time. And goddamn you, we had a fucking good time.
That's great, yeah.
But you look back, and if we looked at it, like if somebody took a video of us, they did, but if we looked at the video, well, what are we really eating? Like, how many times have I had sirloin aged? How many times have I had filet and skirt steak? Since I was a little kid. And yeah, I love that stuff, but we were emotionally invested in that moment. And like us as professionals, if me and you went out to some hipster restaurant, the first and foremost thing we're going to do is have a good time. And the second thing that we're not going to do is we're not going to fucking discuss the service aspects, the coffee, the wine selection. We're going to have a good time.
Yeah. I can't talk about service.
No.
Because, service is such a good, it's such a sticking point for me.
Ugh.
There are restaurants that I will not go to because the service is just poor.
Well, when you talk about the general public, service is 80% of it. A lot of customers don't want to believe that, but us as Palate people, we know that that's a fact.
Yeah. For me, service, I came from, I worked in food service at one of the best restaurants in the city.
It's called food service.
Yes.
And it's not called delicious food. It's called food service.
It's more than that.
It's called the service industry.
Exactly.
It's the service. Not called the delicious food industry.
Yeah, you just put this in your mouth and shut up industry.
Yeah,
it's So the service part, when people don't stick that, it just ruins a lot for me.
Yeah.
But that actually kind of makes me think about something, which is there's this one place in Japan, in my wife's hometown, called Ichiran Ramen, and basically when you go there, you eat in a booth. Okay. You go in a single booth by yourself.
Single booth, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a little door that they
sure,
open it and they give you the ramen and they close it and you
can really kind of think about what you're doing.
Yeah, and people were like, "Oh yeah, Ichiran is really good." I'd never go. I've never been.
Yeah.
I've never been. I'm like, dude, I'm not about to sit here in a booth and eat ramen. I want to go and have ramen with people.
I'm going to tell you a experience I had in Japan that I think you might find. I was in Nara.
Yeah.
And we were by hot springs, very traditional Japan, in the mountains where they make soba.
Yeah.
And we went to a place that only served a couple dishes, like a hot soba, cold soba.
Yeah.
But we were in a beautiful room on different levels, and they had little windows that open up directly out to a freshwater stream where they'd boil the soba or make the whatever.
Yeah.
And as the sun went down, they closed one window and opened another window. And then they would close another window and open another window. And it was all service. What are they making? A very simple soba. And the nuance of texture and the nuance of flavor would be so delicate and so amazing that me as a newbie, how would I ever know?
Yeah.
But I recognize how much effort they put into it, how much service they put into it. Watching them make it with their feet, watching them step on the soba, watching the swag the guy had as he's making it, watching how to make sure every noodle was super chilled before he got it, how everything was served on one noodle was served on one basket, another noodle was served on another basket, the story of the baskets. The baskets add maybe a hint of a minutia of aroma or what have you to the meal. Talking about how they make the soy sauce before they make the ponzu, and and the dashi
just
before
the effort is an important seasoning.
It is levels of service that they're giving us.
Yeah.
And of course, by time I dunk my first little bit of cold soba in some ponzu and I eat it in my mouth, what do you think? I'm fucking blown away already.
Right.
But do I really get the minutia of it? Have I been eating soba since I was 12 years old?
No.
Do I know the different qualities and levels of buckwheat in Japan?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But I felt something intrinsic.
You felt it.
I had that third perception you're talking about, and that third perception is service.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of these big issues with some of the better restaurants. I think that's an issue with my restaurant. We serve esoteric fun stuff. We serve the kidneys and the tongue.
Yeah, it's crazy because like if you look at it on the surface, you would think, oh yeah, this is very simplistic, you know.
No, but we make the bread.
Yeah,
and
dude,
we
it's
do
crazy.
these bonkers things.
It's crazy. Yeah, like you're doing shit that's like.
And people, if you still give them a bad attitude or make them wait too long or something comes cold,
Done.
they don't care that you made the burger bun.
Done. It doesn't matter.
And then if you read what's the best burger? Oh, it's a frozen patty. It's a factory-made bun. But man, they could pump them out with consistent service.
Yeah.
And your general public, and unfortunately, I don't consider you and I general public. Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself general?
Not when it comes to this.
Not when it comes to service and food.
When it comes to other things, maybe, but not when it comes to this.
Yeah, when it comes to going to getting a massage or doing other services, I am the general public because I pay into it.
Yeah.
Right. But as far as like getting a drink at a bar, man, my eyes are looking at a whole different.
Dude, I can't get a drink at a bar.
It's a unique.
I can't.
Yeah.
I just drink straight spirits at this point. I can't get a drink at a bar.
It's like
Watching people's work flow.
you have to go to New York or you have to go to Japan.
You do. We are, I think, getting pretty close to wrapping it up.
Awesome, man.
It's probably one of the longest podcasts I've done. I've lost all sense of time. I thank you for the brandy. In terms of that.
I didn't even know what we were talking about.
Yeah, well, like,
it was all over the board.
I feel like we had something, like we were going to go through all these bottles, but quite frankly, like when you and I get together.
Yeah, it's always like this.
It's like we just jam and talk about what we're passionate about, and we actually went much deeper than I expected to go. So I'd rather go deep than broad.
Awesome,
always.
Man. That was great.
And
thank you.
Thank you. We have a question of the day. I think like this episode lines up just a perfect question of the day.
Sweet.
Which is, what is Palate to you, the audience? What do you think Palate is? What's your? We gave you our explanation on what Palate is, and it developed over the course of the episode. But I'm curious, what do you guys think? What is Palate?
Let us know.
Yeah. Peace.